you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to a special edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network on the second day of the 2024 NHL Draft. We are live in Vegas. Pierre is back in Boston, and the draft is done, Pierre, but we had quite the eventful day on the NHL trade market, Pierre. And let's get right to the main team that was making a lot of noise, and that is the Tampa Bay Lightning, as they seemingly are clearing some cap space to hopefully be able to keep Victor Hedman to an extension, and then also Steven Stamkos, prevent him from signing somewhere else as a free agent. And as you were just saying to me off the air, Pierre, they could be lining up the money right now for one Jake Guentzel. What were your thoughts on what Tampa Bay did today?
I'm not surprised. Julien BriseBois is a super aggressive guy. He's got an amazing owner that he works for, and Jeffrey Vinik. It's an organization that really understands their organizational strengths, their organizational weaknesses. They try to build on their strengths. They try to address their weaknesses. They knew some of these players that they have taken in over the last few years weren't panning out the way they wanted to. They don't have a low bar set, Jimmy. They got a high bar set. They've been in the final 3 years in a row in the last 5 years, 3 in a row, but over the last 5 years, which is amazing. To me, the biggest thing is Julien did a good job. He did a good job. You know, they wanted to clear out some cap space, which you correctly said, especially for Victor Hedman. It keeps him alive in the Stamkos sweepstakes. I do think they'll try to get Guentzel, but they brought in a player, and I know that brought in a bunch of them, but there's one guy that doesn't get nearly enough acclaim, and that's J.J. Moser.
Yes.
You and I have talked about him since October, and I'm shocked that I'm not shocked because people didn't watch Arizona play.
Yeah.
But he's a real good player. You know, he's 24 years of age. He was almost an even player this year on a team that's been really bad for a lot of years now, and he's a great international player. He's a really solid puck-moving NHL defender, and I think in the system in Tampa, he'll fit perfectly.
I'm with you on that. And one thing I want to say too, Pierre, just to echo sort of your sentiment about Julien BriseBois, this guy reminds me so much of Bill Belichick in his heyday because he's ruthless. And I don't mean that in a bad way, in an evil way or anything. He's going to do whatever it takes. And if that means moving a popular guy on the team, it is what it is, because he feels it can get them in position to win again. And he does that, and it doesn't matter. He doesn't pay attention to the media. He doesn't pay attention to the fans. He does what he needs to do to win. And that's something I respect about him a lot, Pierre.
Let me back you up on that, because I completely agree with what you just said. And it's not an evil thing what you said. Hockey's a very tough business, and it's one of those where if you fall in love with your players, you're probably going to be in big trouble.
Yep.
And so he likes his players. He doesn't fall in love with them. And so Alex Killorn is Exhibit A. We had Matt Cater on the other day. It broke Killorn's heart to have to leave Tampa. But can you blame the guy? He went to 4 Stanley Cup final with the team, 2015, and then the 3 to start, 2020, 2021, 2022. So you look at it, you're like, whoa, what a career. And then he goes to Tampa, he takes the money, as his agent did. Look at Barclay Goodrow. You don't think they wanted to keep Barclay Goodrow? They did, but they couldn't pay him.
Yep.
Look at Blake Coleman. You don't think they wanted to keep Blake Coleman? Sure they did, but they couldn't. You don't think they wanted to keep Ross Colton? You bet your boots they did. They couldn't keep him. Ryan McDonough, after they, traded him to Nashville, you don't think they wanted to keep him? They want him so bad, they just brought him back.
Right.
So they don't like to do this stuff, but they understand they have to with the kind of players they have. They've drafted unbelievably well. They've traded fantastically well, and they run a real good business. Real good business.
And the other thing, too, Pierre, that I want to back you up on, too, is the Moser part of that deal. As I was just saying to you off the air, not enough people on social media right now, whether it be media or fans, are backing us up. And I don't think, like you said, I don't think a lot of people have seen him play. And
it's just do me one favor.
It's not sexy. That's what it is, Pierre, right?
Yeah, you got to do me one favor. If you're going there for your hockey intel, you're probably not going to be successful as a GM. Okay.
Yep.
And I don't, that I'm not on there, but people send me stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? Okay.
Pierre's got his social media spies that keep him up to date on what is being translated out there on the social media platforms. All right, Pierre, looking around, other thing too. Okay, let's go to the other side of one of those deals, the Utah Hockey Club.
Yep.
You and I were both in agreement that they were going to be active, that they were going to spend, and of course, took them first of all, great pick by them getting McGuire last night. I loved it.
It was fantastic. It was
and,
really
and,
good.
and I want to say, I don't know, Pierre, if you could hear it from home watching on TV or not, but the Vegas fans are doing their best to really get this rivalry going with Utah, because obviously with the proximity there, they have a natural rivalry set to start. And they had a Utah sucks chant going, Pierre, at the draft.
Yeah. So here's what I'll say.
Wow.
I give him a lot of credit. I know you're tight with Bill Armstrong, the GM there, from his days in Providence as a player. But here's what I'll tell you. I saw Jerome McGinley and Shane Doan play for the Kamloops Blazers back in the 1994 Memorial Cup in Laval. Okay? Laval.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just telling you. So the fathers played together. Now you got Josh Doan and Young Iginla potentially going to play for Utah.
Yep.
I think that's an amazing. Now, I don't know if that was reported or not, Jimmy. I have no idea.
First time I've heard that.
Okay. So I'm just telling you. So I'm watching the fathers play, and they were both obviously tremendous players. Shane and Jerome were outstanding. They're also part of the ownership group with Mark Recchi and Kamloops.
Yep.
Nobody's talking about that. I mean, so there's a lot there, but I love what Utah's doing. I salute them.
Yep.
They're going to hit the ground running. Remember how we talk about neighborhoods for divisions? That Pacific Division, that neighborhood, going to be nasty.
Yeah, it's tough. I'd say, Pierre, you'd probably agree, between that and the Atlantic Division, those are the two toughest divisions.
Right now they are. Now I don't know what free agency is going to bear, and we'll have a show obviously on Monday to talk about that, because if Toronto gets Tanev, and let's say Toronto's able to get one or two other players, that could change the neighborhood pretty quick.
Yep.
It really could. And I think they're gearing up for that now, obviously trading for Christopher Tanev's rights. And I just want to correct some people out there. Oh, now that they've traded for Tanev, they can sign him to an 8-year deal. No, they can't.
They can't.
No, they cannot. They cannot.
Because he wasn't their player.
Correct. So they can sign him to a 7-year deal. I don't think they will. He's 35 years old. I'll be shocked based on the way he plays if they'll sign him to a 7. I could see 5. I could see him going 5 at maybe a higher AAV for a guy that doesn't get a lot of points. But if Toronto does what I think they're going to do and go defense heavy and character heavy, I could see Toronto changing the schematic in the Atlantic pretty quick if they do the right things.
Pierre, this just came to me today. I have insomnia. I'm laying in bed. I couldn't sleep. And obviously I always got hockey thoughts going through my head. So I'm sitting here thinking of different scenarios, and I haven't heard this linked. Nobody's told me this. This is not a scoop. This is me just hypothetically speaking and tossing this idea at you. If you're first of all, do you think Toronto would have the artillery to pull this trade off? But if they do, would you go after Yaskarov in Nashville?
Ashkirov? No.
No?
I would not. I would not.
Because I know they want a goalie, so I was wondering
if
that
would be a goalie. I think they do have the collateral to be able to do it. I don't think that would be a problem for them. But if you're asking me, I would not do that in that marketplace. If let's just say, for the sake of argument,
guy, is that what it is?
Say it was a marketplace like Utah. Let's say it was a marketplace like San Jose. Let's say it's a marketplace like Anaheim. I would do that. I'd have no problem taking that player. Here's a guy that still hasn't got his feet wet at the NHL level. And to put him in as a starter, I think if it ever went south, a lot of people could be in trouble, including the goalie.
Okay. I see what you're saying there. Good points. All right. First off, before we go on here, I've got like 2 more questions for you, Pierre. This is going to be a quick hit, as we promised. But I want to thank, because, man, this has been a great experience for all of us here, not just on the eye test, on all the Sick Media Network programs. We want to thank Betway, and I want to just tell you one more time about Betway before we all leave Vegas here. Thank you for them getting us out there. Betway is a leading global online betting and gaming brand. follow your gut instinct. Go with Betway. Go to betway.com or scan that QR code right underneath Pierre there to join the action. You must be 18 plus. You must play responsibly. And of course, let's go to our other sponsor as well, TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting, TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For a no-obligation customs or freight quote, contact Sick Podcast at shiptcs.com. Again, that is Sick Podcast at shiptcs.com. All right, Pierre, final thing. What do you think we'll see, if anything, in terms of trades before free agency on Monday? Or do you think there'll be kind of a little lull and then they'll jump into free agency on Monday?
I think Trouba will be traded to the Detroit Red Wings from the New York Rangers. Now we'll see, what the compensation is back to the Rangers, but Detroit has done a good job clearing out. I think they realize they need physical stability on the back end a little bit more. You could see, and we talked about this during the year, Moritz Seider was wearing down. A lot of heavy lifting for him, and I think they realized they needed to bring in more of a stabilizing player. Trouba, I could see fitting in. There's a Michigan kid, played at the University of Michigan. Obviously is really tight with a bunch of the guys that are on that Red Wings team, so they know him really well. So I would say that that's probably the one I'll be looking for the most going forward. But there were some interesting deals done today. There really were. And I want to also credit the Montreal Canadiens with the draft.
Oh, what a job they did, huh, Pierre?
I'm not going to talk about after the first round because I've told you a bunch of times, Jimmy, this is not a real deep draft. I know most of the players the Canadiens took, and some of them have real, like the Merrill kid who's at St. Sebastian's kid. He's going out to play in Penticton. I actually scouted him for the people in Penticton, so I know his body of work really well. There are two players going out to Penticton from there, Cataldo, who's committed to Brown, and Merrill, who's committed to Harvard. So I've watched those kids play a lot. They're both good players, but Merrill gets picked by Montreal. But with Haig and with Demidov, Montreal long term offensively with Safkovsky there, Cole Caulfield there, Nick Suzuki there, Owen Beck. This is starting to really take shape in Montreal. They've got to be excited about where they're going right now.
I think they are. One thing too, as Tony Marinaro was saying to us last night, they're adding character, Pierre. Not just good skilled players, but they've done their research. They seem to be adding some players that are strong on character as well.
Well, 21st pick overall, Haig is a character kid. He's played obviously in the USHL in Chicago. He's going to the University of Michigan. He's a kid from Mississauga, Ontario. Tremendous talent, real good skater. Not going to say he's better than Pacioretty. I don't think that's fair, but the comparable is there in terms of USHL, University of Michigan, and then Montreal Canadiens. But Max was in his prime. Max was really good for Montreal, and I think this kid has a chance to do a lot of the same. Demidov is elite. He probably should have gone second overall. But to be fair, organizational need, and we talked about this on the show yesterday, organizational need for Chicago was on defense. And that's why they took Lev Shunov. And I don't have a problem with that. And I hope other people don't either, because that kid's a really good player and he's going to be outstanding. I think where things got a little bit different, and this is where the draft really started to change, was at 3 with Anaheim. So that's kind of where it all went a little bit awry, but
they're on the right track for sure. Pierre, finally, one trade I want to bring up to you, and I'm sure you want to talk about too. That was an interesting trade. The New Jersey Devils get Paul Cotter and a 2025 third rounder from the Vegas Golden Knights in exchange for Alexander Holtz and Akira Schmid, the goalie. The Holtz thing is what's interesting to me. Our producer Shane here and I were just talking about it before we came on here. Pierre, am I wrong to believe that his value slipped a bit, or was he just being a little too hyped up when it came to the trade market?
Hyped up on the trade market. I don't blame them. They were probably, putting out pretty good seeds to try to elevate his trade value. Just a player that wasn't hard enough physically, I think, for a 7th overall pick. I think they were expecting a lot more from him. Just never materialized. Cotter's a guy that's a bigger body. He can do a lot more grinding and bumping on the boards and get to the front of the net. Schmid, I watched play a ton when he was in Utica, a ton. And not just there, obviously been in New Jersey as well. Super talented kid. But again, New Jersey gets Markstrom, and where's he going to play? Where's he going to fit in long term? So I don't mind what New Jersey's done. The biggest thing for them, Jimmy, and I'm going to tell you again what we talked about a while ago. If they don't stay healthy, they're going to have a problem
because of the depth.
Some teams can have enough depth they can overcome injury situations. New Jersey doesn't.
Yeah.
There's no wiggle room for them. They've got to stay healthy. And especially, both Hughes brothers have to stay healthy. Dougie Hamilton has to come back and be healthy. Markstrom has to be healthy. Like, they cannot have any long-term injury situations, or there could be some problems there.
All right. Well, we will see what happens. And again, 48 hours from now, we will have our free agent frenzy show, recap all the action to that point on Monday. So definitely tune in here on the Sick Podcast Network for the eye test. But Pierre, this was great. A little bonus talk with you. I don't mind that. So
I'm glad you got in touch with me and asked me to come on. All I've been doing is just watching it. There's been some teams have done some really nice things, and other teams, they're going to be. And I'm not going to tell you because I don't like to do that at the draft, especially when I'm not working it. When I was working it, I wasn't afraid to say do's or don'ts or positives or negatives. But I'm not there, and I think it would be lacking in professionalism to do anything in a negative way. So I'm going to tell you right now, and I'll tell you personally later, there's some teams that really mangled this draft. There's some teams that are going to be in big trouble. There's some other teams that did fantastically well. They did really, really well.
Well, we will discuss off the air for sure, Pierre. But thank you for joining us here. Thanks to our viewers and listeners. Man, we got a lot in a short time. There, we only announced it a couple hours ago.
Do you want me to take questions? Do we have questions?
I mean, if you want, we could take
questions. Jimmy, right. You know the way I am. I mean, I'm so proud to be part of this thing. So if you have questions, I'll stay.
We do have to get off because we got another show that they got to do here in the studio. So let's take 3 questions right now. Just put whatever one you pull up, Shane. Let's do it right now. Here we go. All right, Alex Ivanovsky. Do you think the Jacob Trouba slander is fair? I don't. Yes, he made some bad plays at critical times, but I think he can still play. He brings physicality that's so needed. I hope Detroit gets him.
No, I like Jacob. Yeah, I like Jacob. I don't care what people say. They're not in the dressing room. This is a guy that played with a severely damaged lower body in the playoffs this year. It's all whether he's hurt or not hurt. The question mark as a scout about him has always been decision-making because he goes for the vicious hits, and sometimes he gets out of position because of that. That being said, he's a critical component. He's a guy that if he's playing 4, 5, 6 on your roster, he's a real capable player for you. Real capable.
And I think he's a good guy for that team at the stage they're at, Pierre, to the next level that they want to get to. Good veteran presence, like you said, character guy, come in and help them.
Don't forget the relationship with those Michigan guys too.
Yep.
He knows them all.
All right, next question. State of survival. As an Isles fan, my jaw dropped when Yzerman fell to us. Me too, brother. How close to the NHL ready is he?
He needs at least a year in college.
Yeah.
And depending on what Celebrini does, if Celebrini stays at BU and they play Yzerman and Celebrini together, he might be able to come out. If he doesn't stay, I think it's a little bit more difficult an equation for him. He may have to do 2 years in college. But the biggest thing with him, and Jimmy, if I say anything you don't agree with, please say I don't agree with it. His whole thing is he has to score. If he doesn't score, he's not helping your team win. That kid is scoring. He's going to help your team win a ton.
Yep. I agree. All right. Final question here on a special edition of the eye test. What do we got? Kook69. Who is the most improved team via the draft? That's a great question.
It is. Your team's one of them.
Yeah.
Montreal's definitely one of them. I would say San Jose's improved. I'm not saying it's enough to get him in the playoffs, but Macklin's special, Jimmy.
Yep.
We're going to find out. He's just really, really special. I think Chicago got better. I do. I think Chicago's making serious progress. I think Columbus got better, Jimmy. I think Columbus got better. So there's some teams that have obviously done some really good stuff. There's some other teams via the trade market that got better too.
Yep. I'm with you. Utah. I like the Utah moves.
Tons better for Utah. The one thing I'd say, though, Mosier makes Tampa better for what they needed.
Yep.
They don't need Sergachev's power play stuff, and they don't need Sergachev's, depth penalty kill. They don't need that. They needed a guy like Moser that they could count on, and McDonough, who they could count on. They got the offensive firepower. They don't need that other stuff.
I'm with you. All right. Well, listen, Pierre, thank you for joining us here, and thank you again to our viewers and listeners. Thanks to my wonderful crew here for the Sick Podcast Network. This has been another edition of the Eye Test. We will talk to you on Monday.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind.